Hi everybody, my name is Bonello, and I am a first-year student in the Higher Education and Student Affairs Master's Program at Indiana University Bloomington.
And my name is Jennifer Argumedo. I'm also a master's student in the HESA program, and today we'll be presenting our executive brief on first-generation college students. We'll start off with a brief overview of first-generation college students, which can be abbreviated as FGCS. The first-generation label experiences really broad application and often appears in discussions of disadvantaged, at-risk, and non-traditional students. TRIO programs determine that first generation indicates that the student's biological parents didn't complete a four-year college degree, while the Higher Education Act of 1965 says that in addition, first-generation college students are the first in the family to attend college. In order to successfully discuss the experiences of first-generation college students, we need to be aware of some relevant terms, starting with a nuclear household. Because a student's household is often described as a quote-unquote standard family with two parents, there's little room for interpretation of what a standard family is, with two parents foregrounding this discussion. Single-parent households or households with other guardian models are not represented. With the nuclear family model, literature is able to discuss the fact that parents are lacking a four-year degree. The word lacking brings us into our deficit model, which talks about the fact that first-generation students and their parents lack the cultural, social, and economic capital associated with succeeding in college. But this is also challenged by Yassa's cultural community wealth model in our following term. The community cultural wealth model was originally created to talk about Latinx students in higher education, but can be applied to first-generation college students to talk about the capital that they bring into their collegiate environment. Culture shock can be used to describe the dissonance and disorientation that first-generation college students experience on a college campus because of the unfamiliar culture, way of life, or set of attitudes that are presented there that they may not be familiar with. It's also important to recognize that a lot of first-generation college students describe that part of their identity as an organizational identity rather than a social one, in which they are more aware of this identity in relation to their college experiences and not inherently their identity as a person. To additionally help us contextualize the first-generation college student experience, we can look at the historical background. On January 10th of 1944, Congress passed the Servicemen's Readjustment Act of 1944 and signed the GI Bill of Rights on June 22, 1944. This created opportunities for first-generation college students to participate in higher education, a space that was historically designed for wealthy white men. Open admissions also made it possible for any New York City high school graduate to enroll in a City University of New York institution. The Economic Opportunity Act of 1964 contributed to increases in the diversity of student population on U.S. college campuses with the establishment of TRIO programs. These three things diversified the pool of students that were attending higher education institutions, which granted first-generation college students the opportunity to be a part of these institutions. Something else that we would like to discuss are trends and statistics. Compared to continuing generation students, first-generation students are 71% more likely to drop out of college in their first year. And according to NASPA, 24% of first-generation college students had parents with no post-secondary education. 56% had parents who did not have a bachelor's degree. And 59% of the 56% were also the first sibling in their family to go to college. First-generation students access financial assistance services at a greater rate, 65% than students from continuing generations, 49%. And we'll see why this is an issue with our current issues, concerns, and challenges section. In contrast to some first-generation college students' personal value systems of interdependence and community, universities frequently promote and value an independence culture. First-generation college students value community and do well when creating relationships, but a lot of student development models really expect college students to gradually become independent. They say that college students or students in higher education institutions aren't actualized human beings until they reach this point of being self-sufficient and being able to go on their own. But this is really challenging a lot of values that many first-generation college students have, which is to keep community and a support system. A support system is really important, especially when considering some of the other challenges that are related to first-generation college students, which the 2006 Spelman's Commission report describes as barriers to access, affordability, and standards of instruction. Because of more employment and financial responsibilities, first-generation students report lower academic expectations and less faculty involvement. We'll see in one of our next sections that first-generation college students really flourish when they have the support of counselors and the supportive programs. But if first-generation college students are facing issues of family responsibilities and financial responsibilities, they're not able to allot time to help themselves thrive in these higher education institution environments. Literature on first-generation college students describes the collegiate experience as what was already mentioned, with college counselors being essential to first-generation college students by aiding in resource acquisition and navigating the higher education environment. In addition, the first-generation identity can be felt more strongly based on the environment that the student is present in, which can create social distance from friends, family, and community members. Oftentimes, a first-generation college student is not able to relate to their family members on the basis of education because sometimes their family members don't understand what a college environment looks like. So that can create a bit of a gap and distance from the student and their family as well as people back home. The first generation college student can also experience feelings of culture shock, which we described in the relevant terms, inadequacy and struggle with enrollment, financial aid, and the extracurricular process. First generation students also receive poorer marks, finish fewer credits, and are less likely to complete a program that is intellectually rigorous.
In regard to issues of development for first-generation college students, we found two primary issues: pre-college experiences and engagement and sense of belonging. For pre-college experiences, we found that first-generation college students tend to have lower socioeconomic statuses, lower degree aspirations, and were less involved in and extracurricular activities in high school. Furthermore, because many first-generation students have parents who did not attend any sort of college, this can negatively impact students as they feel excluded and invalidated when their peers and professors make assumptions about the educational background and experiences of their parents. Additionally, for engagement and sense of belonging, we found that first-generation college students tend to be less involved and therefore are less likely to integrate diverse experiences that contribute to their learning and intellectual development. Furthermore, first-generation students report lower senses of belonging at their institution because of their lived experiences and structural or institutional qualities that disadvantage them. While research on first-generation college students brings many implications for higher education administrators and student affairs professionals, we found two primary points. Current literature is limited for first-generation college students. Most research only considers the 4-year experience for undergraduate students, not the community college or graduate level experience for first-generation college students. Additional research should recognize the intersecting identities that institutions do or do not consider. Additionally, first-generation college students at 4-year institutions report lower sense of belonging than other students. This demonstrates the importance of a better understanding of how first-generation college students experience belonging on campus and how institutions can better serve them. While conducting research on first-generation college students, we found many useful strategies that student affairs professionals can implement to better serve the students that they work with. For example, institutions should support identity-conscious career exploration for first-generation college students that emphasize social, emotional, and identity development. Additionally, student affairs professionals need to foster affirming spaces that value the experiences of first-generation college students. Some strategies involved include adjusting curriculum, such as course curriculum for first-year experience classes. These curricula should include objectives that promote self-efficacy to support first-generation college students' integration into their institution. Finally, first-generation college students need more support in their overall transition to college and need tools to better prepare them for the integration into academic and social spheres of college life. Because first-generation college students are defined more by their experience and their upbringing rather than their personal identity, the group is very diverse. For example, we found that first-generation college students are more likely to be female and come from homes where family income is less than $25,000 per year. Additionally, although many institutions view first-generation college students as low income, many other factors and identities contribute to first-generation college status, such as age, race, ethnicity, gender, socioeconomic background, veteran status, and employment. For each student, it is different. So finally, we included a quote from a piece that we found that states that first-generation college students are not a monolith and their needs are as diverse as their backgrounds and experiences. We've included two graphs that depict how first-generation identity impacts college enrollment. The first graph demonstrates the discrepancy between the social identities of first-generation college students and continuing generation students. The second graph demonstrates how minoritized identities are overrepresented in first-generation undergraduate populations at minority-serving institutions.
These graphs and more information can be found in NASPA publications. Thank you for learning more about first-generation college students.